Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar today on Variphy's Cloud Calling Journey Guide. My name is Phil Corbin. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Variphy. I'm joined today by my two guests, Kevin Sweeney from Customer Success and Dan Schmidt, Variphy's Director of Operations. If you're not familiar with us, Variphy, we specialize in analytics and management solutions for UC platforms like Cisco, WebEx calling, Microsoft Teams, Zoom Phone, and soon to be Avaya. While I won't dive too deep into those offerings today, I encourage you to check us out at variphy.com if you're interested in more information. In today's webinar, we're going to explore why an increasing number of organizations, big and small, are moving their communications to the cloud. This isn't just a trend, it's becoming critical strategy for maintaining operational efficiency in today's environment. So with that, we're going to look at some of the top reasons organizations are moving or should be moving to the cloud. We'll discuss assessment and planning, so looking how you can evaluate your current infrastructure to ensure a smooth transition. Things like understanding your existing assets and capabilities. We'll cover some avoiding common mistakes with things like data security, service interruptions, and give you some tips on how to avoid those. We'll also take a look at some ways to measure what success looks like for your organization post-migration. We'll then open up our session for a quick Q&A before announcing our Amazon gift card winners. So with that, let's jump into things. So 5 reasons a lot of organizations are moving to the cloud. First, we have cost savings. By moving to the cloud, orgs can eliminate the need for large in-house IT teams. Cloud providers handle all maintenance tasks, including system updates, security patches, and backups. You can then focus your core business on your core business without worrying about technical maintenance. This is obviously going to reduce your labor costs significantly. You can also cut down on spending in other areas, so no need to invest in physical hardware. Cloud services operate on a pay-as-you-go basis, meaning you only spend money on the resources you actually use. No more paying for unused capacity or space. Next is scalability and flexibility. So cloud calling provides ability to scale your resources up or down based on your business needs, whether it's expanding during peak periods or scaling back during slower times. This adaptability is crucial for staying efficient without overcommitting financially. Enhanced collaboration. So cloud solutions typically allowed for better communication and teamwork across an organization. With cloud calling services, team members can access files and systems from anywhere. They can share information seamlessly and then synchronize their work with minimal effort. This capability is especially valuable in today's increasingly remote work environments, helping maintain productivity and cohesion among dispersed teams. Reliability and disaster recovery. So cloud calling stands out by providing dependable services with disaster recovery plans. This means less downtime for your business and assurance that you can recover quickly from any data loss incidents, keeping your operations smooth and uninterrupted. Security and compliance, finally. Cloud services like WebEx calling, Zoom Phone, and Microsoft Teams come with built-in security features that are regularly updated to meet compliance standards and protect against emerging threats. This built-in security can save time and money as it alleviates the need for extensive security management. So with that, Kevin, I'll pass it over to you so you can talk about some assessment and planning.
All right, yeah, thanks, Phil. Okay, so now, yeah, let's say you've decided you need to make the move. What are kind of your next steps? What should you be looking at? Well, first, it's evaluate your current infrastructure. It's pretty crucial to thoroughly understand the existing setup. So this means documenting, every detail of your current communication system. What hardware is in place? What software is in place? Is my current hardware cloud ready? How are my call flows configured? How many devices do I actually need? A lot of times we see people saying, oh, I need 1,000 devices that are cloud ready. And then after a few dormant phone reports, the actual number they need is a lot lower. So this step is not just about knowing what you have, but also kind of understanding how it's being used as well. Next is identify business requirements, right? Align these previous findings with your organizational needs. What do you actually need from a communication system? This is going to involve discussions with various stakeholders and management to really capture all those necessary requirements. But in this stage, you really want to be asking yourself, do I need to scale up quickly? Are there specific compliance or security considerations? Each of these requirements should really kind of guide the choice of your new cloud solution. Next, we have plan for a mixed environment. It's pretty rare for any organization to switch overnight. Most are going to transition gradually. So it's really important to plan for a period where your old and new systems are going to coexist. How will calls route between your on-premise and your cloud systems during that phase? And how are you going to handle your data continuity and security? You also want to ensure you have good visibility and tracking, right? As you migrate, maintaining visibility into both your old and your new environments is really important. So this means having the necessary tools in place to kind of monitor usage and performance across both of those platforms. You really want to be able to avoid any disruptions in service and quickly address any issues that you might have arise. And then prepare for user adoption, right? You got to plan for the human aspect of your migration, which is your users. How are you going to train them on the new system? What support structures do you need to have in place? Successful adoption is usually what makes or breaks any new technology implementation. So this is definitely something you want to be thinking about before you make any migration. All right. So with that, let's take a look at some common mistakes or oversights that we see people are making when they move to cloud calling. So Dan, I've got this list. I'm going to read through it, and I want your expert opinion on this. So anywhere that you feel like you can jump in, please feel free to do so.
Absolutely.
So number one, like I said, inadequate planning. This is pretty much everything that we just mentioned, right? It's really one of the most important steps towards a successful migration. A lack in planning can obviously lead to service disruptions, escalated costs, decreased efficiency, and just general dissatisfaction among management and stakeholders. So it's really important that you're conducting those assessments of your current infrastructure, keeping open communication with your key players to make sure you're aligned on migration goals and timelines, and just developing that plan that outlines each phase of your move. So just kind of like these points cover, right? In order to avoid that, just conduct a thorough assessment of all your current communication infrastructure. Engage with all your stakeholders to align on migration goals and timelines, and then develop a detailed plan that outlines each phase of that migration and includes any contingency measures you might need.
Yeah, these are all great points, Kev. The number one thing that we usually see here is the lack of efficient planning. It's really comes down to a couple months of investigation and taking an audit of your current phone allotment. Checking to see what firmwares you have installed on all your devices, right? Making sure that those are multi-platform capable. A lot of organizations still are using Gen 1, Gen 2 devices out there. So it is critical to either decide, are we going to upgrade the firmwares on all these devices or just purchase new devices outright? Same goes for gateways, gateway configuration and route plan configuration. If you can kind of merge a bunch of users, if your guys are going into call queues or new hunt groups being configured, taking a pre-look at that before you start the planning and the configuration of a migration is very, very critical, because it will save a lot of time in the end.
Great. Dan, you might have mentioned it, but I'm just kind of curious, how long are you seeing this kind of this planning phase last?
Yeah, so we're looking anywhere from a few months. Typically we say a month to 3 months just for planning. And then from there, make sure you have all that data that you need in order to make sound configurations as you go through the migration phase itself. So, a 3-month planning phase is not unheard of, I would say that.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, let's move on to number 2. Number 2, insufficient security measures. This one's obviously pretty important during migration, right? Without proper security measures, unauthorized individuals might gain access to your communication channels. This might lead to, unauthorized eavesdropping, identity theft, and just other malicious activities that might be harmful to your organization. So best practices here, implement end-to-end security encryption to secure any of your communication channels and protect your data. And then enforce strict access controls, so you're ensuring that only your authorized personnel can access that sensitive communication data. You want to update and patch communication systems regularly to address potential vulnerabilities. Now, obviously, on the cloud side, this might be a little bit more automatic, but you still want to be focusing on this for the old system you're moving from, that on-premise side. Conduct thorough security audits and assessments to identify and mitigate any potential risks. And then you just really want to educate your employees on security best practices and try to promote a culture of cybersecurity awareness among your organization. Anything on that?
Yeah, so I would say, with the push to, cloud calling platforms, that's one of the best benefits of making that move is having that security all controlled and managed, by the vendor of choice. The only thing that we do see here is, yes, while the platform is being updated, you'll see more frequent and recurring client updates. If you're an on-prem system, you'd have to manage all that by yourself, leading to, I guess, less routine or less frequent updates. But the fact that these updates are occurring more frequently on the back end, you'll see all the clients, hey, you have a weekly update usually, so have to apply that. And then any reputable cloud calling platform, most of them have end-to-end encryption. That's what sells that platform. So that's kind of a standard nowadays. So less of a concern in today's market for insufficient security, because most of that's managed by the third party.
Okay. On to pitfall number 3, ignoring user training and adoption, right? Like I kind of mentioned earlier, the effectiveness of any new technology is really going to be dependent on how well it's embraced by your users. So overlooking, of user training and adoption can, either lead to resistance or reduced productivity. So, some of the strategies we recommend for effective user training and adoption is to develop training materials, right? That might be tailored to different learning styles. You want to schedule training sessions well in advance of your migration to give users sufficient time to adapt. And then also establish a support system that's going to allow your users to, address any concerns quickly.
Yeah, a lot of this I think kind of goes unsaid, just kind of an expectation. But as you roll out new technologies, you always need user-based training, and I would say even further than that, you do role-based training sessions, right? What one user might have to know isn't the same that other users might have to know. So really have it be very specific to the users or your audience as you roll out cloud calling technologies. And so if that's in place, most should be okay.
Okay. Pitfall number 4, overlooking compliance and regulations. Complying with relevant regulations is obviously pretty crucial. Failure to adhere to these standards can result in either legal consequences or just damage to your organization's reputation. So steps here to ensure compliance, you want to be conducting comprehensive assessment of the regulations that are applicable to cloud calling in the regions you're going to be operating in. You're going to implement security measures that meet or exceed industry standards, and then just maintain open lines of communication with any regulatory bodies, just so you're staying informed with any updates or changes. Dan, I know you have a lot of experience in compliance, so what are your thoughts on these ones?
Yeah, this is more of a increasingly concern. Every week it seems like we're seeing something new about data sovereignty or breaches of sorts, right? Every country has their own laws when it comes to data. And so when you're talking about cloud calling, while yes, you can route that cloud traffic or that calling traffic, there are other things like recordings, right? You have single or dual party consent in some states here in the US, but in different countries it varies very differently. So just to be prepared, do your research if you have presence in multiple countries, especially overseas. Make sure you know what those rules are for data sovereignty, and make sure you can relay that data, overseas or even external outside of that country of destination. So definitely something you need to look into.
Okay. On to number 5, neglecting scalability and flexibility, right? So obviously your communication needs, are going to evolve as your business grows. So a non-scalable solution might lead to increased operational cost and just missed opportunities for efficiency. So just some factors to consider for scalability and flexibility. You want to make sure you're selecting a cloud calling solution that can easily scale to meet increasing demands, and ensure the system's flexibility to integrate pretty seamlessly with any other technologies and adapt to whatever changing business processes you might have. So last one, Dan, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think with the big 3 that we always see, right? WebEx calling, Zoom phone, Microsoft Teams, all of these implement some sort of fashion of scalability. It's something that's just required nowadays, right? And all of these have different options, right? Direct routing per se, or failover mode to your local gateways. But moving to cloud calling, there is always that chance, right? It is 100% reliant on one's internet connection. So that is obviously of a higher concern. Without that, you have nothing. But yeah, take a look at these options that these platforms offer you, because most times you'll need to kind of institute some sort of scalability or disaster recovery type plan, and that option's additional flexibility there too.
Awesome. Thanks for that input. All right. So, let's say you've kind of made the decision to move, what you're supposed to take a look at. You kind of know some things to avoid. What's the next step after you've made this migration? How do you kind of measure that success? So with that, Phil, you want to cover understanding migration success?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's 5 metrics you should be measuring to really understand a successful cloud migration. The first metric is user adoption rates. This is a clear indicator on how well your new cloud calling system is being received. High adoption rates typically suggest the transition was smooth and that the new system meets the needs of your users. Monitoring logins, usage rates, and feature utilization can give you a good idea on how the system's being adopted. The second metric is service quality and reliability. This includes monitoring uptime, call quality, and any service disruptions. Cloud solutions should improve your communication reliability, so tracking these metrics will help you verify that you're getting the reliability you're paying for. The third metric, customer satisfaction, really important. If you're a business that relies heavily on communication, the ease and quality of the calls greatly affect your customer satisfaction. Surveys, feedback, support tickets. Analyzing all this is a great way to gauge how your cloud calling system is impacting your customers. The fourth metric, cost savings. Compare your expenses before and after migration to assess your financial impact. This should include direct costs like subscriptions, and then also indirect costs like reduced IT labor. It's important to evaluate whether the cloud calling solution is meeting your financial objectives. The fifth metric, agility and scalability. How quickly can you add new users or features? How well does the system adapt to changing business needs? A successful cloud calling system will significantly enhance your ability to scale operations and integrate new technologies. So those are really the top 5 metrics you should be measuring to understand a successful cloud migration. So Dan, if you have any input or a recap on that.
Yeah, I think kind of looking at everything that we've talked about today here, I'm just going to kind of go through a few top points, in my opinion, here of making a successful migration here. Number one is measuring the adoption of that migration. Absolutely critical to understand a couple things. But one, how successful are we in, talking to our users, providing training to our users? Like I said, this kind of leads to the fact that maybe we didn't do such a great job in training our users for all these changes. Do we not see the same call volume that we expected previously? Well, that's a good indication of either your users not grasping that new technology, or maybe they're just confused, so that, it kind of gives some hints as to whether or not we could provide additional training. Secondly, right, pre-migration statistics and measuring what it was prior from the older system. You have to take the time to plan through all of your old configurations, and then how can we seamlessly migrate that onto the new platform, right? And in the middle there somewhere is going to be the time where you decide, do we actually need all the stuff that we currently have on the old system, or do we want to have a one-to-one, mirrored to the new platform? So the planning phase is where you're going to be able to identify all that. You don't want to be waiting to the last minute to decide whether or not to keep hunt groups around, or route plans or route groups around, right? All that needs to be predetermined early on in the stage. Make security of whatever platform you're moving to a priority. There are many cloud calling platforms out there. I don't know the security stature on all of them, but actually look into whether or not they have end-to-end encryption. Do they have role-based security access built into the platform that you can utilize? So just take the time for that. And make sure the cloud calling platforms has scalability options, right? Each one is different, but just do the research and look to see what your options are. And then, like what we said before here, the number one cause, or I guess reason, that we see of companies going to CPaaS is potential cost savings. We discussed earlier, right? It is obviously hardware, but there's also resource cost savings too. You don't necessarily need as many IT administrators to service that old platform here, and so that is a huge driver to the cloud, is cost savings. And I will say, right, all of this can be wrapped up by using the correct tools to provide the migration assessment, and that's pre-migration, during migration, post-migration. I know internally here at Variphy, we have offerings to help organizations with that assessment, and so we highly suggest taking a look at that. And I think, Kev, you might have some material available here that the audience could take a look at that kind of goes through all of our migration assessment offering.
Yes, sir. Just drop that in the chat over there.
Excellent.
All right. Let's take a look, see if we have any questions over here. Here's one. Dan, what is we kind of covered a little bit, but what is the average timeline to migrate to a cloud calling platform?
Yeah, so kind of like I alluded to before here, anywhere from 3 months to over a year. A lot goes into obviously how long a migration takes, but we want a substantial planning phase. And so if you get through all that relatively quickly, 3 months for the larger organizations that have a bunch of hunt groups, whether or not you're migrating the call queues, a bunch of users that need to be migrated over. It's very rare that it's just a flip of a switch and you're migrating all users at once. It's usually in phased approaches. And so the larger organization, the longer it takes to get each milestone through.
Okay, let's see. Any tips for managing hybrid conversions, i.e. due to a large amount of users or locations?
Yeah, I think that's submitted by Joseph. Thank you. Good question, Joseph. So yeah, absolutely is. I'll always say it comes down to the planning, right? And you want to kind of configure milestones, maybe by department, maybe by location. For the larger locations, you could do sub milestones of department within each location. And that is a good track to get you through a successful migration and then move on to the next, right?
All right. From John, can Variphy work with Teams, WebEx calling on the same software, or do I need a different server for each one?
That is a great question. Variphy functions with one software, one instance of Variphy will function with all platforms mentioned. So that's Microsoft Teams, WebEx calling, Zoom phone, CUCM, migrating from CUCM to any of these cloud calling platforms, all one single pane of glass. And that's the benefit of this utility, right? Is you could get the visibility of your old and through your migration and into the new all-in-one application.
All right. From Ariel, in your experience, have you seen many customers ask for and implement any sort of local survivability, or are most customers just 100% cloud only?
That is an excellent question, Ariel. And it's very rare that customers will be used 100% cloud only. We see a lot that they'll have some sort of survivability. Direct routing is huge. We see that a lot. And so they'll have survivability in place. Part of that, what we talked about is data resiliency. If your platform goes out, you don't want to be reliant 100% on that platform. You need the infrastructure to support outages, and so that's where your survivability comes into play. Good question, Ariel. Thank you.
Are you planning on working with GoTo or Jive?
Not at this time. I'll say we've heard a few requests for that. Is not currently on the roadmap today, but we could certainly take that back to the product team and see if that's something that we could plan for future roadmap.
Okay. Well, looks like all the questions, fantastic questions, everybody. Thank you for that engagement. With that, I'll pass it over to you, Phil.
All right. That's it for today. Want to thank everybody for joining. Please visit variphy.com/migration to get a PDF version of this presentation. If you're interested in learning more, don't hesitate to reach out to Kevin, Dan, or myself. That's Kevin, Dan, or Phil at variphy.com. We'll be happy to help you learn more about getting more with your migration journey. Have a great day, and we'll see you next month.